This is a quick way to take an okay photo and change the background radically so that you have something that has more of a stylized look and tends to have more of a sense of glamour to it when the background is indistinct. Something more along the lines of that, or the awesome image here. Okay. All right. So toggling back to Photoshop, the first thing that I want to do is I already did, and I saved my file. And then I'm going to do a levels adjust to bring up the contrast or the saturation in the skin. It's a little pale. So Command L, and I'm going to intensify the midtones and bump up the highlights slightly. And now it just has more overall power. And if you look at before, washed out, after, much more dense. And I don't even know if this projector does things justice, but definitely looks better on my screen. This should not really take very long. However, it is important that you open up the history panel now. We'll do a few different versions of this, and I'll show you some artistic ways of working with the history panel. So once you've gotten this cleaned up the way you want it, very important, you come down to the bottom and you click to take a snapshot. At the bottom of the history panel, Window, History, and click on the snapshot. All right, now I have a snapshot of this image. And in fact, I'm going to duplicate this layer and hide one of them. And I'm thinking, just for safety's sake, I might want to take a snapshot now that I have the two layers, just in case something really serious goes wrong. So now I have this, and I'll save. Okay, snapshot 2 is really the more important one right now because it's the one with the two layers. All right, now this is really a matter of your own judgment at this point. You've got to decide how you want to handle what is going to happen next. And what is going to happen next is I'm going to throw the background way out of focus. You could add a completely different background, but that's not really the point of this particular exercise. That would be much more of a layer mask treatment type of job here, and the job I'm doing is a history brush kind of a job. So I'm now going to hide the top layer and select the bottom one, making sure it's targeted. Is that what I'm thinking? Forgive me. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep the top one selected. Okay. And again, I do want to make sure that I am going to back up here to where I did my levels, and now I'm happy with that. Okay, I'm going to stop messing around. All right, so the levels are in place, life is good, and it's saved at this moment in time. I just saved it. Great. Now, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go Filter, and I'm going to do Blur, and I'm going to start with my favorite Motion Blur. I'm going to make my blur go side to side. That's completely up to you. I want mine to go side to side. And I'm going to blur it like crazy, blur it. Like, what the heck are you doing? So this is one way of doing this. I like this a lot. Sometimes I do this on my Facebook portraits of myself just to make them not look so boring. All right, so I'm going to do this kind of a angle after all, and I'm going to really throw some blur. Yeah, there we go. So now I got some interesting light streaks happening, and I'll click OK. And again, make a snapshot. Clonk. So, a snapshot is only saved for this time you're working on this file. If you close and open the file, the snapshots are gone. So you can only do it this time, okay? Only can do it with this job open. So we have snapshot 3, which is what we're looking at now, and we have snapshot 2, which is our dude all happy and go Gidget. I'm going to go back to snapshot 3, please look, which is this moment in time, motion blur. And then I'm going to switch to the brush with the swing back arrow. This is the history brush, not the art history brush. Forget that thing. History brush. And then I'm going to put a check box by the regular or normal snapshot 2 and increase the size of my brush. Now, as I mentioned, this is sort of a quick thing. This is not done with a mask the way I'm doing it. It's just history panel. And when I start to paint, what I'm painting back is the sharp version of the lad. And I'll just paint his whole body in like that. Then, okay, so I can see it well, and he's not messed up.
It's saying could not use the history brush because the history state does not contain a corresponding year.
All right, I'm going to ask you to watch the tutorial, and then I'll come over and fix you, okay? All right, I'm going to decrease the size of the brush, and then I'm going to switch the checkbox next to snapshot 3, please look. So now I'm switching back to the one with the motion blur, and I'm painting around his body. So I have the sharp one painting for the main character, and sometimes I'll just, really even get close up to the edges here, even though I've just cleaned that up, right? And now I'm like, it's cool, but there's just too much going on. So I'm going to come back here to where I did motion blur. I still have that as a snapshot. I'd like you to see the whole thing before you commit to doing anything on your project, because you're going to find out that you're going to start going down the wrong path, and then you're going to get frustrated. So I want you to see the whole thinking that goes into this. I'm not done showing you yet, so try to refrain from doing it while I'm doing it. You'll learn more if you watch through the whole thing for this particular one. Right, so, it was just too much going on. So I'm going to go to blur again, and this time I'm going to use Gaussian blur. Sometimes I've done thousands of Photoshop projects, so I know what I want, but sometimes it takes a few shots to get where I want to go. So I'm going to go blur and Gaussian blur. And what this is going to do is really smudge that stuff. Now I have something that's a lot more atmospheric. Okay? And then I'll come back to snapshot 2, which is the sharp version of the lad. And now if I paint again, it's a little creepy, right? There's a certain creepiness to this that's just not natural. It's just not cool at all. It's creepy as all get out. Like, if I'm going to use that, everyone's going to be like, what the heck happened there? That's just gross. You can't do that. That's bad. Right, so then I'll go back again. Motion blur, Gaussian blur was okay. So I'm thinking, I had this gorgeous sample. I want it to be like that. Okay, it's way too colorful, and so I'm going to bring down the color, Command U, and I'm going to knock back the saturation in the background. And in fact, again, if I look at this guy compared to that, all right. So I have some tonalities in there that are questionable, and I think I'll just try colorizing it. No, I'm against that. All right, so I'm going to warm it up towards more like, stay away from green. Probably want it more golden. Maybe that. And then I might even, at this point, don't do anything yet. Take a snapshot, okay, so I have that saved, and then I'm going to do this, which is going to be, I'm going to add a new layer, scary stuff, and I'm going to put this gold color on top of it. I'm going to put a overlay on it and knock down the opacity. All right, what the heck? You can see the figure in the background. I'm going to blur it again. Side to side. And I'm on the wrong layer. That's nice. I think I mentioned this another night. It might have been recently, but what I tried to not do in this class is use canned content every single week that would be so obvious of like step by step exactly what you would do, because your life isn't going to be like that. No one's going to be like, here's 3 pictures and here's the formula to put it together. That's never going to happen, right? You can go buy a WOW book and learn techniques. And I'm teaching you techniques, but I'm trying to teach you techniques with real life random things that are going to come up. All right, so now I think this might work. However, I'm going to go Command E. That's going to put that into the one layer again, and I'm going to take a snapshot. Clearly, at this point, the image looks nothing like what I had to start with. And the sharp version is snapshot 2, which is already marked up here. History brush is in the right spot, and our lad is definitely got some issues still, but it's getting better. It's way too yellow, right? It's a little pukey. But it's starting to be like something you could stand looking at. So I'm going to go back to here, to this spot, and then I'm going to desaturate this again, Command U. I'm going to knock the saturation down. And now I'm going to go back to snapshot 2 with the history brush, and now it's too muddy. Okay? This is what happens when you spend years of your life in design school. Okay, so I'll throw white on top of that. This is probably going to really help. And black and white on front. And Option Delete. And knock it down. All right. And again, I'm going to Command E. Back to snapshot 2. Thank you. And I'm gonna go with this for now. Okay, so I'm painting our fellow in here. Background's really milky, but still think it might work. Okay. All right. Got that. Now, I want to bring back the milky situation, but what I didn't do was make a snapshot. I don't have a snapshot of that background. If I come over to here, and I make a snapshot, okay, I made the snapshot, and then I come to here, then I can paint with that snapshot. So those are the steps. So now I can paint with this snapshot, fill it back in. I have a soft brush, I need a hard brush, but you can see that it will work. All right, so hard brush, hardness 100, or maybe not 100, brush, hardness 18, oh, and it's history brush, hardness, we'll say 79. That'll do it. So I'm going to zoom in and decrease the size of the brush, and it's history brush, decrease the size, and with loving care I would paint around the contour of his self. All right, so I'm going to zoom out and get this cranked around here a bit. Now, you know, it's highly subjective whether you think this is good or not, but this is how I would paint this with a combination of hand and shift clicking. You could make a layer mask, but that sort of defeats the purpose of using the history brush, or you can do them together. It just depends, on your style. But as I continue to fill these edges in, all right, I'm not going to take it much further because I just want to show you as if this was done. I know we're creeping along here in time. All right, so let's say I've done a fantastic job of painting this, and I still want to change it some more. So I'm going to zoom in just to this side of the head. Okay. And again, history brush, and I'll clean up this edge a little better here. All right. At this point, pretending that the whole background is painted in and cleanly done, you can still do another adjust. So I would, let's say, want to cool off the background, Command U, colorize, or cool it off.
He's Hulk now.
He's the Hulk, right? You can still see that if I'm on snapshot 2, I could restore him. So you can get a lot of variation very quick with this. Instead of using a mask, you can paint from one history state to another, to another, to another. So you can change just his shirt, or you could change just the background very quickly with the same image. And then when you get the combination of things down that you want, you choose the state. Say, in fact, I did want this state. After all, I could still bring back this background. So by making multiple history states, you can blend versions of your image together in very unlikely ways. So if I painted with this one on this side, okay, and got this one, right? Now I'll take this whole scary thing and blur it again. I'm gonna just radial blur it. Do that. I know you're jealous. Okay. All right, radial blur it again. And then I'm going to come over here to snapshot 2 again, my favorite. And so a lot of amazing things can happen with this idea of creating snapshots and using the history brush to paint back different versions or different states of your image. It's pretty amazing. It's a great way to also do retouching if you have something where you want to throw the background just into blurry. So I actually like this weird composite background like the best of all the backgrounds. If you click on that layer, it's going to bring that entire, or a snapshot, it's going to bring that entire snapshot into view, and then you can paint with another snapshot. You understand the premise? Yes? All right. So go ahead and make your own amazing artwork with that. Remember, if you click the name of that snapshot, that's what it'll put down on view. So you can choose any of these to be the main image.
After you first cleaned it with the history brush, did you blur it again?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
So after you cleaned it first with the history brush from the blurriness in the background, did you blur it again?
Yes, I blurred it a couple times.
So what is the corresponding layer?
The corresponding,
It says could not use the history brush because the history state does not contain a corresponding layer.
So it sounds like you have extra layers in your project.
Oh, you need to be on this.
No.
No, see, actually, in my project, I have one layer the whole time.
Yeah.
Let me stop this.